Horrid Henry is a menace and the big brother. Perfect Peter is mum and dad's little angel, aka the youngest sibling who can do no wrong. And that age gap, that's what makes the whole show work. So what happens when you take that away? Same birthday, same age, same size, no one's older, no one's younger, no one has the upper hand. Just the most chaotic kid on the planet, trapped beside his polar opposite, with absolutely no escape. Yeah, this might be the most wicked one that we've done yet. Let's dive the f*** in, shall we? Imagine the most devastating event possible in the Horrid Henry world. I'm talking about something catastrophic, something so dangerous it would completely rewrite the entire series. That's right, what if Horrid Henry and Perfect Peter were twins? Now, we know what you're thinking. You're thinking, right, so they'd share a birthday. Big deal, move on. Except it is a big deal. It's actually quite a big deal. Because the more you actually look at Horrid Henry, the more you realise something fascinating. Henry and Peter's age gap isn't just a character detail. It isn't just background information. It's the entire foundation their relationship is built on. Take away the age gap and suddenly everything starts falling apart. The way they interact changes. Oh, wait till you see how mum and dad treat them changes. More on those fucking psychos later. Now, the reason why Peter is such a different character compared to Henry is not because he's the complete opposite of Henry, it's because he's Henry's younger brother. And believe it or not, that's one of the most important factors in the relationship between the two of them. When most people think about Henry and Peter, it's just one simple contrast between the two. Henry's horrid and Peter is perfect. Henry is the rule breaker and Peter is the one who sticks to the rules. Henry hates vegetables and Peter loves them more than anything else. Simple, easy, and predictable. However, that's only half of the story. The other half is their age. Peter doesn't just get a different treatment from the other people in Henry's life just because he's so perfect. It's because he's young. And Henry is given a different kind of treatment because he's older. This point is one of the most important ones for comparing Henry and Peter. And if the two are considered twins, that whole idea can disappear and things become weird. So before we even get to the chaos, we need to understand what the age gap is protecting. A lot of people think that Henry dislikes Peter, and at the start of the Horrid Henry series, it seems as though this is true, since the viewer often sees Henry calling him names, insulting him, annoying him, tricking him, and also stealing from him. So he appears to be constantly waking up, wondering how he's able to make his little brother's day a little bit worse. However, despite all of this, there are various times in the show where you can see Henry caring greatly about Peter. A great example of this is the Perfect Peter Pumps Up episode, when Peter starts getting bullied by Bossy Bill. Initially, this seems as a situation that Henry might be delighted about, as it would give him the opportunity to bully his annoying, perfect little younger brother.
Welcome to our fine school. If there's anything you need, all you have to do is ask.
Great! Give me your pudding then!
Of course.
Despite that, in this specific episode, you can see how much he cares. When Peter's getting seriously beaten up, Henry jumps in and tries to help Peter and encourage him to stand up for himself. He does this because he's the older brother, protecting the younger one, and he feels some responsibility toward him, even though he'll never actually admit that. This situation is defined by Henry's seniority, and this hierarchy is crucial to both characters. However, if they were twins, there would be no sibling hierarchy. Henry wouldn't be protecting a young boy anymore. He'd be protecting an equal. With the fact that they aren't twins removed, the characters' relationships start to fall apart.
All I'm saying is, the next time Bossy Bill asks you to do something you don't want to do...
When I want your advice, I'll ask for it.
One tiny change, and suddenly, Henry's rare moments of kindness lose the context that made them work. But that's just the beginning, because the biggest effect on the age gap isn't on Henry, it's on everyone else. Let's talk about mum and dad. If you've watched enough Horrid Henry, you've noticed a pattern. Whenever something goes wrong, who gets blamed first? Well, Henry. Always Henry. A lamp explodes? Henry. A window breaks? Of course it's Henry. The laws of physics stop working? It's probably on Henry.
Here we go again. Henry gets the blame.
A lot of that comes from two things, his reputation and his age. Because Henry's older, adults expect more from him. He's supposed to be responsible. He's supposed to know better. He's supposed to set an example. Unfortunately for everyone involved, Henry would rather eat a cactus than set an example. So every mistake he makes gets magnified. Every bad decision becomes proof that he's being horrid. And every time Peter behaves properly, the comparison gets even worse. The parents don't just see Henry making mistakes, they see an older child making mistakes, which makes those mistakes seem more serious. Now, compare that to Peter. Peter is younger, Peter is smaller, Peter is viewed as more innocent, and because of that, he often gets the benefit of the doubt. A perfect example is Perfect Peter's Horrid Day, where Peter decides to act like Henry. Chaos ensues, yet people still associate bad behaviour with Henry, because that's the role everyone expects him to play. The troublemaker, the difficult child, the one who's always causing problems.
What if I were horrid? Yes! Tomorrow I'm going to be like Henry. I'm going to be horrid!
Now imagine that exact situation if they were twins. Mum and Dad lose one of their biggest arguments. You're older, Henry. That sentence disappears, gone, deleted, removed from existence, because you're older is one of the most powerful weapons parents have. It's the ultimate shortcut. The older one is expected to be more mature, to know better, to get more responsibility and more blame. But twins are equals. Nobody's older, nobody's younger. For the first time in his life, Henry would be compared to Peter on equal terms. And that's where things get properly interesting. Yeah, that sounds like freedom for Henry, but it's a nightmare for Peter. Because while Henry loses a burden, Peter loses an advantage. Peter's reputation as the perfect child isn't just built on his behaviour, it's built on the comparison. He's constantly being compared to Henry, and compared to Henry, almost anyone looks good. Imagine being the younger brother to the most chaotic child in Ashton. That's basically free publicity. Every time Peter behaves properly, people notice. Every time Henry misbehaves, Peter looks even better. But if they're twins, that gap is harder to maintain. No age difference, no maturity difference, no excuses, same expectations. One behaves perfectly while the other behaves like a walking natural disaster. Suddenly, people start asking real questions. Why are they so different? Why does Peter always need praise? Why does Henry always get blamed? Is Peter really as perfect as everyone says? And that's a dangerous question, because one thing the series occasionally reveals is that Peter isn't actually perfect, and he's not even close. Peter decides he's had enough. Instead of acting like the sweet, innocent younger brother everyone expects, he launches an elaborate revenge scheme, and honestly, it's kind of terrifying. Peter proves that he's smarter than people give him credit for. The only reason people don't notice is because he's usually hiding behind his perfect image.
Oh, that's it! The perfect revenge!
Now imagine twin Peter, a Peter who can't rely on being the younger brother, a Peter who's forced to compete directly against Henry, a Peter who's constantly compared to someone his own age. I think we'd start seeing those flaws much more often. Not because Peter becomes worse, but because people stop overlooking them. Yeah, and now we get to the part where the house just starts being a battlefield, because it's established now that the gap in ages isn't simply a detail, but a safety precaution. It's what prevents their rivalry from being totally out of control. In the original series, they could hate each other as much as they want, but Henry's still the older sibling, and Peter's still the younger one. They're playing separate games, on separate playing fields, under separate sets of rules. The moment that you make them twins, those barriers come down, and Henry and Peter are no longer siblings who are rivals, but rather rivals who just happen to be siblings. And that's far more terrifying, because sibling rivalry is annoying, but brother-twin rivalry is personal. Everything suddenly becomes a competition. Literally everything. The same grade, the same teachers, the same classes, the same test papers, the same class trips, the same opportunities, and every single accomplishment made by one immediately turns into accomplishments denied to the other, which we both know Henry, who wants to win it all, is not doing so well with.
And the overall winner of every single thing in the entire world is Henry!
Consider the original show. Here, Peter is younger. Hence, he's usually not in a direct competition with Henry on an academic level. Okay, Peter gets praised more frequently. Okay, Peter gets higher marks. However, they're not sitting the same tests. They're not going for the exact same prizes, and they're not constantly placed above or below one another. Picture that. Henry walks into the class to find out Peter has been getting better marks than him, again and again and again. At first, Henry would probably dismiss it as a one-off. Then it would start to bug him. Then it would begin to annoy him and frustrate him. Eventually, it would consume his entire thought process. This is because one thing that many people seem to disregard is that Henry doesn't like losing. Games, competitions, challenges, or just wanting his way. Henry simply can't accept being second best, and he goes out of his way to secure his victory.
No way, Henry! I'm not going to let you score just so that you can be player of the match!
Why not?
Now, picture this instinct being triggered on a daily basis by Peter, his brother, his twin brother, his constant reminder that someone else is successful. Henry would lose his mind. Not all at once, but slowly. A classic supervillain origin story. Instead of a dip into some nasty chemicals, it's a dive into a pit of envy.
Look, here's mine.
Oh, that's lovely, Peter. Henry, homework now.
And to be truthful, it wouldn't be any better with Peter either, because Peter has this one trait that makes Henry just about climb the walls. Arrogance. And don't get us wrong, Peter's not the usual obnoxious kind who goes around telling everyone how fantastic he is. He just doesn't do it all the time. But there are plenty of opportunities in the normal course of the day where Peter obviously takes great delight in being favoured, being right, being admired, and being taken seriously over any adults involved. When the adults are his parents, that smugness becomes much more pronounced because of the simple fact that all of Peter's accomplishments are happening right under Henry's nose.
Thank you, Peter. What a good boy you are.
Let's say sports day. Peter wins a medal. Henry doesn't. Peter is clapped for. Henry isn't. By the time they get home, I bet Henry's already thinking up a new sport which consists solely of the rule Peter loses. But this is where it gets particularly amusing, because with all of Peter's obvious advantages, Henry possesses one thing that Peter lacks: creativity. Now, that sounds absurd, because most of the things that Henry's involved with at least turn into something of a disaster. But think about the number of plans that Henry conjures up in the course of the show. How many ideas he thinks up. How many tricks or shortcuts. The fact that they usually backfire to catastrophic proportions is irrelevant. The fact that he thinks in a different way is what is relevant.
Come on, Hercules. I need your help.
The reason Peter is so brilliant within the system is because of the fact that he thrives outside of it. And if he and Henry are forced to be pitted against one another, it becomes much clearer. It becomes a much clearer concept. The teachers would see it, the classmates would see it, and Mum and Dad would definitely see it. It's no longer Henry versus someone who's smaller than him, but against someone of his own age, making him appear a far greater genius while highlighting his own flaws. Let us consider birthdays, since honestly, this is where the theory is comedic. In the original show, Henry and Peter both have their own birthdays, their own parties, their own gifts, and most obviously, their own attention. But with identical twins. It's hardly simple. Twin life is war, is it not? And nothing exposes a sibling rivalry faster than getting shared attention. And don't ask me why I know this. I have the right to remain silent. Anyway, picture being Henry on the only day of the year where the world revolves around you. Your birthday, your own celebration, your time in the spotlight. But Peter is standing directly next to you, having to share it every time. Henry would despise this, not purely because he doesn't like Peter, but because Henry likes attention. Every birthday card, every birthday present, every birthday cake shared. Mum buys Peter a slightly more generous gift. Henry notices. One extra chocolate for Peter. World emergency. 5 minutes more for one guest to dedicate to Peter. Henry starts writing a declaration of war. There would have to be a full-time referee in the household. No, that's not it. The UN. And the point is, even Peter would be miserable, because Peter's a boy who likes praise. He is a boy who likes admiration. He is a boy who likes to be celebrated. But as a twin, that celebration immediately becomes halved. Peter may well achieve something outstanding, but Henry will be there to pull the focus onto him. This is something that Peter has never had to compete for before. It's actual true competition for approval.
Can't tell Mum I didn't win anything. She's going to be so disappointed in me.
Next we meet Moody Margaret. Oh, me. Just when you think the situation can't get more unstable, enter the person born to weaponize it. Because honestly, who would relish the arrival of twin Henry and twin Peter more than Moody Margaret? Oh no. Margaret would rather enjoy tormenting them, manipulating them. She already knows precisely what buttons of Henry's to push. She's basically received a master's in antagonizing him. But now with twin Henry and twin Peter, it's a whole new playing field for Margaret, because now there are two boys for her to pit against each other, and she would totally do that. Think of Margaret, who has no problem manipulating them, telling Henry that Peter was always secretly the favourite, and then turning around and telling Peter that Henry was secretly the favourite. Think of Margaret setting them up in a bunch of competitions and pitting them against each other and spreading nasty little rumours all over the school and instigating arguments and wars between them. Think of the chaos, the utter delightful chaos that would ensue. The two would probably end up hating each other for weeks, and then it would eventually dawn on them that Margaret started it.
Everyone, Henry.
Ralph?
Hello, Henry.
Now, we don't believe that making Henry and Peter twins would ultimately make them dislike each other anymore. Actually, in the grand scheme of things, that would probably make them care for each other so much more. Sure, the short term might be a little rough for the boys. The competition would be even fiercer, the bickering might increase, and their rivalry might become even more extreme. But over time, they would realise that they share almost exactly the same life experiences and expectations. Over time, they might even begin to understand that the problem isn't that they're bad and good. And when that happens, the rivalry might just transform into a healthy competition, driven by support rather than resentment. Now here's the twist. The twin version might actually save these boys instead of destroying them. We've learnt 3 important things so far. The age differences between Henry and Peter are essential to their dynamic. They change dramatically when they become twins, and Peter forfeits a lot of benefits of being the younger brother, while Henry gets the relief from some of the obligations that come with being the older brother. The biggest change isn't what happens immediately, it's what happens after years of being treated differently. After the family gets over it, they aren't exactly horrid and perfect. Instead, they become very similar over time. Not identical though. Peter's not joining the Purple Hand Gang. Henry doesn't all of a sudden love broccoli. It's not quite the same gap anymore. They become similar because of what they're told they are. Henry has always been horrid for so long that he doesn't question it when he's called that. And if you're expected to act a certain way, sometimes you just do.
Henry!
It was Peter's fault!
Don't tell lies, Henry.
It's true.
Well, Henry, you should have got out of the way when Peter was watering the flowers.
Meanwhile, the opposite is occurring with Peter. Peter is the model citizen. He's perfect. He's good. He's responsible. He's the role model. Peter knows that everyone expects him to be perfect.
Peter is such a joy to teach. His work this term has been simply super. Henry, where's your report?
I must have lost it on my way home.
So Peter strives to be perfect. This is due to Peter's identity. It's difficult to maintain the persona that you've set for yourself when every comparison is always set against an older figure. So Henry and Peter are each trapped by their own personalities in 2 separate molds, and by making them twins, these molds are shattered. It's here where Mum and Dad start to see good qualities in Henry that they never noticed before, and after receiving so much praise for good behaviour, he starts showing it more. Not as Peter, because Henry's become perfect, but because he has no reason to be good. For Peter, it's the opposite problem. He's been the perfect child all of his life, but now he has to contend with an equal rather than an older brother. Getting a 95 test grade is no longer as special when Henry gets a 94. Consequently, Peter becomes more motivated than ever to stay on top. This results in an increased drive and an urge to always want to succeed. And his flaws emerge through his pride, greed, and need for parental approval. The envy and malicious nature that we see in Horrid Henry's Perfect Peter's revenge becomes more frequent as Peter learns to be spiteful for things that he no longer has to himself.
Bad things, Henry, and guess who I can do them to? To you!
Also, this is going to help Peter. No one can be perfect all the time, and competing with Henry would be a great way to be able to mess up and succeed at it, and just be like a normal person. So, in a weird way, Henry might be the one thing that finally lets Peter breathe. Damn, I never thought we would say that out loud at Not Fair Studios. The family also becomes a lot more balanced. The comparisons between the two brothers start to disappear as Henry learns how to earn trust and be more compliant. It'll only mean that Henry's treated a bit more fairly, but also that Peter's judged like anyone else. Neither brother really loses his characteristics at all, but they lose their extremism, meaning Horrid Henry and Perfect Peter begin to be inappropriate types. In the end, it might just turn out that the biggest battle in Ashton isn't between the horrid boy and the perfect one, but between the two of them trying to learn to get along while still arguing over who was born first for years. It's still Horrid Henry after all. And that's why this theory is more than what if they were twins, because one change in age changes blame, praise, rivalry, identity, and actually the entire bloody future of this family. But seriously, what do you think? Would twin Henry become less horrid? Would twin Peter become less perfect? Or would the rivalry simply become 10 times worse than you predicted? Tell me in the comments. If you've got other Horrid Henry theories that you'd like to see covered, then put those in the comments. And I'm not going to beg for you to subscribe to us, but please, oh gosh, please, why wouldn't you? Please, come on, we depend on it. You can do it. Or not, do whatever the hell you want, mate. I don't have much to threaten you with anyway. Cheerio.